I played 28 million games of Marvel Snap Grand Arena, so you don't have to. Let me tell you how and why. Number one, Grand Arena comes out December 5th. This is recorded December 3rd. So how did that happen? Think about it. Grand Arena is coming out on Friday. But the big thing about this version of Grand Arena, with the crossover with Cosmic Invasion and the theming of it, is that for the first time ever, they are only letting us use pre-constructed decks. There are 8 decks that they have already set out and said, this is the only thing you can use. These 8. So I sat and I looked at that and went, wait, what? We can only use these 8 decks? There's gotta be a way to know which of these decks is best. So that's what I did. I first took the information from snap.fan, where they data mined all of the information about all of the decks and the unique abilities that come with them. So you see Weapon X deck has Berserker Rage, a new skill. Iron Man, Stark Technology, etc., etc., etc. All 8 decks have a brand new unique skill. So by taking that into effect with the rules of Grand Arena and how Marvel Snap plays, I decided to build a full-on Marvel Snap engine. Through the last 5 days of work and constant editing and tweaking and figuring out all the unique ways that Marvel Snap plays, I needed to do several things. Okay, number one, I needed to build a foundation of understanding all of the cards, not just in game, that are in these decks, but you gotta think of cards like Merlin, which have polymorph, which means any card can turn into any other card in Marvel Snap. So I had to build an entire real game engine. How on reveal works, how end of turn works, move triggers, destroy triggers, etc. Then, on top of that, I had to think about things like accuracy, card accuracy, speed only growing when you've used all of your energy, as an example. X23, the destroy behavior to go back on the field, not gain its own power, but give more energy for the amount of destroys that it did that turn for the next day. All of that. Guardians, predictions, knowing that Guardians are going to hit every single time? No, that's illogical. Finding a balance to have accuracy get programmed into Guardian hitting versus Guardian missing. All of that. Then the decision engine. It has to look at the full simulation of not just a regular game of Marvel Snap, but changing the energy curve because it's Grand Arena, understanding how cards start in your hand, like the skills and the champions, getting them to play in the right orders, in the right decision logic and making, training it to understand this is the right order for destroy, training it to know that this is a predictive engine that Rocket Raccoon's more likely to hit in this lane on this turn due to this priority or not. All of that. It looks at turn number, it looks at lane power, it looks at lane control, it looks at priority, it looks at what you code from there. It takes it all together and then says, play Grand Arena. Because we have these 8 decks to work with. So if you can train a simulator to understand Marvel Snap, play with the right sequencing, understand the mission of what you need to do in an average game, and get it to play out every possible combination and scenario, and still factor in all locations and rarities of those locations and how often they may appear and how they affect every deck and every card in Marvel Snap individually. Put it all together and then say, there are 8 decks, which means there are 28 straight up different combinations outside of a deck playing itself. Weapon X Wolverine versus Weapon X Wolverine, that's always going to be a 50-50. So you remove that from the conversation. But 8 decks, 28 different combos. So what did I do? I had every combination play itself 1 million times. So 28 million games of Marvel Snap with each one generating new draws, new locations, new understandings every time. The closest we have ever gotten to a Marvel Snap simulator has been coded with over 20,000 characters of code to make it as human-like as possible. And I'm happy to share with you that it worked. It actually worked. I was able to get real results to figure out what is the best deck to play in Grand Arena going into a pre-constructed only game mode. Here's who it was. You ready? It's gonna look weird like this, but each game happened a million times. And I spent days running simulation after simulation after simulation after small amount, tweaking the balances and getting the accuracies of what decks are working and why. And this one needed to work better. Rocket Raccoon needs to get targeting. That was the only one I had to force an actual number for because it would not get the accuracy right. So I gave it a 60% accuracy rating on Guardians. It's the only number I forced in there in the entire code, including the destroy lines, understanding what the priority of destroy combinations were, how the Thanos stones work on the board, making sure it's looking for how many stones were played, and then is the power stone still on the board, making a 20 power Thanos, which activates inevitable. All of that needed to get programmed in. Put it all together, and this is what it looks like. The number one deck going into it looks like it's gonna end up being the Captain America deck. After a million games per matchup, the Captain America deck only really had one bad matchup, and that was against the Iron Man deck. But the Iron Man deck is a very mid deck. Now, I know what you're thinking if you're looking at these numbers. You're like, hey, wait a minute, guest. Why is Weapon X so bad? And why is Rocket Raccoon so bad? I'll tell you why. The Rocket Raccoon deck is constantly needing to guess. The whole core of what that deck is built around, if you look at the actual cards within it, it's running Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, Toxin to bounce them back, which was another programming in and of itself, then Groot and Gamora. Those have to hit, and with a forced 60% accuracy rate. That's a problem. That's me saying you're doing better than average, and the matchups still are not doing well. What about the Weapon X Wolverine deck? A Weapon X Wolverine deck, it's a destroy deck. But the reason it kept doing poorly, honestly, was Weapon X and Sabretooth are counterproductive. Trying this in my own matchups late last night, it does not make sense. It is an incredibly clunky build, and the sequencing makes it more difficult to make it even more predictable. So I took those two with a grain of salt. That as of right now, even after 5 days of constantly adding more and more logic to the Weapon X deck, adding more and more logic to the Rocket Raccoon deck, trying to see if there's any way to get the sequencing better and better and better and better. And I kept finding more and more opportunities. The priority of which cards to destroy and when. When do you want to play Venom over Deathlock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is the priority on that? And what are you building towards on turn 5 and turn 6? I programmed all of that. And I will have the link to the code for my programmers down in the description below so you can see it for yourself. Make your own assessments. Try running this and see what you get on these matchups as well. I'll share all of that. This will be publicly available. I am not hiding this whatsoever, so you can create and edit over the next few days if you're that kind of person like I spent the last few days working on. So I decided, what happens if you remove the two outliers, Weapon X Wolverine and Rocket Raccoon? Because if they truly are that bad, or if the data is skewed, what happens if you remove them? It does change a few things. It does change a few things. It makes the Annihilus deck actually favored in every single matchup. And that becomes the best deck. And that's going to be the deck I probably recommend to all of you. The Annihilus deck right now looks like it's going to be the best deck going into Grand Arena. Then the Captain America deck took a step down. And then major shifts started to happen. Like the Black Panther deck was the number 3 deck because it was stomping on Weapon X and Rocket Raccoon. But if you see less of those, it drops to being the worst deck of all of them. Those are major changes to keep an eye on. Major, major changes to keep an eye on. So I am going to say with full confidence, going to Grand Arena on Friday, December 5th, if you go in by playing either the Annihilus deck or the Captain America deck, you're going to have a good experience, and you're probably going to do better than everybody else. So then what happens if Annihilus and Captain America become the meta? Does that favor it staying that way? Well, look at it. Annihilus, the hardest counter to Annihilus is trying to compete with Captain America. And Captain America's hardest matchup ends up then becoming Iron Man? But wait, Iron Man's the number 3 deck. Well, I mean, yes, but just barely. But if you start playing the Iron Man deck, you're only playing to really compete against Captain America because you're going to lose to almost everything else. I think this is going to end up being Annihilus, Captain America, Iron Man, guys. It's just going to be a bunch of this, and it's going to switch between going from the Iron Man deck for a couple of days to then going to the Sentinel deck for a couple of days, and then it'll switch again. And then it'll go back. It's going to be all about Captain America and Annihilus. After 28 million games played. Now you know. Now you know. So enjoy Grand Arena, get your Wade Wilson, go in with the Captain America deck or the Annihilus deck, and I'll say with a fair amount of confidence, you're going to fly through. Because I am so proud of working on this project for the last few days and being able to build something that I can share with the community. Because what I want to actually truly get from this is for Second Dinner to see that this was not the solution to Grand Arena. I know this is a test, and I'm going to speak directly to those who are building this decision and this version of this game mode. This is not what any of us requested. Not in the creator group, not publicly on social media. This is not what we requested. Your statement of saying pre-built decks as requested by the community is a selective pull of what the actual conversation was, which was multiple queues. Pre-built versus pre-built, custom versus custom. That's what the conversation was. You can't cherry pick one half of a suggestion and say this is what we wanted, because it's not. So, Second Dinner, I can't wait to see the results of this test. And more importantly, for my own ego, I can't wait to see if after a week, those numbers are right. Stay tuned. We'll have a follow-up post on X. It's the only place I'll be able to because I'll be on vacation by then. So I appreciate y'all. I hope this was informative. I hope this was interesting and something very, very different that I've never done here on the channel. And if you want to have a conversation about it, take a look in the description. You'll see all of the information I used down below. I'll see you next time.